Che bellezza! Che bontà! What beauty, what great taste. Join me into my kitchen because today we're going to make chicken scaloppini with mushroom and marsala. So simple, so good. Chicken scaloppini with mortadella cream sauce. A simple recipe, yet very elegant. Chicken scaloppini with radicchio and gorgonzola. I love gorgonzola. This is an episode you do not want to miss. Why? Because there is a story in this episode about me chasing the chickens. Come for the recipes. Stay for the story. For most of you who have watched my show over the years, by now you know that I am slightly vain. I like my clothes, I like to dress well, I have a love for Italian fashion. But the truth is that I am this far away from working in the wheat fields of Sicily. So I have it very clear in my mind that a huge amount of delusion is involved in this image that I have of myself. And I try to keep myself in check by reminding myself who I am and where I come from. And some of the most incredible moments that I have is remembering what it felt like in my youth going to the farm and hanging around with my grandma. Chicken scaloppini with mushroom and marsala. Hey, I gotta tell you, every time I think about this dish, it reminds me of my old days at the farm with my grandma. First thing you need to learn how to do is how to cut the chicken to make the scaloppini. I like to cut it roughly in same slices, which we're going to pound into scaloppini. But the one thing that you need to do is be careful when you pound. So let me show you exactly what I do. This is a tool that you're going to love. Why? One of the biggest problems that I had pounding the chicken, I was slips all over the place. The technique is that as you see the chicken expanding, you can pull down and pull through. This combination sandwich in between two pieces of plastic is basically protecting you. And as it protects you, it gives you the ability to see exactly what you're looking at without having to worry how the chicken is slipping and sliding all over the board. Now, we have the pieces that I would like to go ahead and cook, but before we cook them, the one thing that I want to do is to flavor and flour them. What I have in here is what I refer to as the Nix Magic Rub. This is a mixture in equal parts of salt, pepper, brown sugar, onion powder, garlic powder, paprika. When it comes to the flour, be gentle. You just want to lightly coat it. And then before we cook it, you need to shake off the extra flour. If you don't shake off the extra flour, this flour will fall in the oil as we cook it and it will burn. So there you are. Every time you deal with raw chicken, the most important thing that you do before you move on to anything else involved in the recipe is to clean your tools and your hands. And now, we're ready to cook these. In the making of the scaloppini, you need to know when the oil is hot. And how do you do it, especially when you're using a pan like this that has a black bottom? Here's a piece of mushroom. I place it in here, and what this mushroom is going to do for us is going to tell us when the oil is hot enough to sear the scaloppini. Why? Why is this important? More often than not, people make mistakes by actually putting the scaloppini into the cold oil, and they ask themselves, what is this going to come to temperature? And as you can see, the mushroom is starting to show the fact that it's nice and hot. There's a bit of bubbling going around, and at this point you count down to 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. I know, it feels like I'm in Houston and we're putting on a missile up in the sky. You ready? Here we go. Remember one thing, when you lay down the scaloppini, always lay them so that the tip of it pushes away from you. You notice that if I was to let it go, it would splash the oil over there. Why is this important? It is important because many times I did not pay attention to my own advice, and instead the oil splashed over me. So now this is a particularly good sized scaloppini. I'm gonna do the same thing, and off it goes on the other side. You can take the mushroom now, it's giving the proof. You can hear the sound, and here we go. I'll let the scaloppini cook until they're brown on one side. As we turn them, you see some of the brown points that we picked up on the outside. These are very important because they give us a sense that the meat is searing exactly the way we want it. Why is this important? As you can see, the scallopini, in spite of the fact that I pounded them in thin, right now they're plumping up. The searing on one side is forcing all the juices, all the water inside the scallopini, trying to go to the other side. Within the same context of what's happening right now, you see them plump up because now we're searing the bottom of it. But remember, we're not cooking them all the way through, so at this point, it would not be safe for you to actually take the scallopini out and eat them. You want to cook them for a total amount of a few minutes, anywhere between 5 and 6, but some of that time has to be inside the sauce. So the high heat is giving us exactly what we want. At this point, it's good enough for me, and I do two things. Turn up the heat underneath, and I move the scallopini to a clean dish. There's too much oil in there to make the sauce. The sauce will be a bit greasy. So one of the things that I like to do, I like to lift the pan and pour most of the oil here on the inside. Now, one of the things that I want to show you is, you see all these brown bits in here? Most people will look at them and says, oh my gosh, it's a problem. That's not a problem. This is flavor for us. So we input about a tablespoon and a half of oil back into the pan. We wait for this oil to get nice and hot, and then we'll proceed with the beginning of the making of the sauce. This is known as a pan sauce. The oil is getting nice and hot, and here's when we start introducing our mushrooms. What mushroom should you use? You can use any kind of mushrooms you want. These beach mushrooms are the one that I love. Why? First, they have the shape of a tiny mushroom. They look like comic book mushrooms. And I discovered them lately. They're mostly used in Asian cuisines, but in my opinion, are a fantastic asset to this dish. You just want to let them go. Together, I'm also going to put some shiitake mushrooms, which are sliced nice and thick. As the mushrooms are cooking, they're also getting connected to the flavors left behind by the chicken. What's important about a pan sauce, and what is a pan sauce? One of the things that I want to do is to show you how simple it is to make great dishes. And great dishes do not require classical sauces that take many, many hours for reduction, clearing, degreasing. I showed you to do that, you know how. But this is something fun that you can make for your family, for your friends, with ingredients that you find in your local supermarkets. Techniques as easy as 1, 2, 3. So let me walk you through this point. Here, we want to ensure that our good friends are sauteing nicely. Look at the coloring that we're starting to pick up. This coloring that we have right here, this is flavor. But this flavor is going to go somewhere else. It's a mixture I have of paprika, onion powder, garlic powder, salt, pepper, and believe it or not, brown sugar. Well, salt and pepper is the easiest way. So if you do salt and pepper, you're doing nothing wrong. But what these elements do have is what I refer to as the constant struggle between yin and yang. It's been for me extremely successful, and I would like to show you how wonderful this is. The coloring that we have on them is splendid. And now we go with a little bit of chopped onion. And when I say a little bit, we just want to have a tiny amount like this. And you can use shallots if you want to, instead of white onion. But I feel the white onions are perfect. You see how fine I cut them? I want them to melt into the sauce, almost in a way in which you will not see them. You've always seen me cook with garlic that I slice nice and thick. But when you're cooking with something like this on high heat, fast and quick, then what you want to do is to chop the garlic. The garlic will cook within a matter of a few moments. But also, as it does that, it puts out a flavor into this very base of the sauce, which is fantastic. This is parsley, but you can use any kind of fresh herbs. This is really the base from our sauce. But how do we go from these dry mushrooms, and how do we turn this mushroom combo into a sauce? And here is where it becomes beautiful. Marsala wine. Marsala wine is a sweet Sicilian wine, mostly used for an after-dinner drink. What we're doing in this particular case, two things. We're stirring very aggressively to dislodge the brown bits that have gotten caught up at the bottom of the pan. Next thing we do is chicken stock. I'm gonna bring this to a boil again, and as it reaches a boil, we're gonna reinsert the chicken scallopini into the sauce. You want to keep them in here at this point on medium heat. Why? It's a gentle reheating of the scallopini. The temperature is going to go through all the way. The scallopini are absorbing some of the sauce, and you see on the coloring they're picking up. The chicken scallopini pretty much gotten to where I want them to go. Let's now take them out. And here comes the magic. I'm going to lower the heat a little bit more. And now I'm going to emulsify the butter into the sauce. Our only thickener in this sauce is the butter. All that you need to do is just butter. Look at this. The butter alone, look at the thickness that this has as it comes down. Just splendid, beautiful, fantastic. That's it. The sauce is made. Scallopini are ready. Let me show you how to plate it. The marsala, by the way, for me is a memory of Sicily. I know that. It's me going back in time. To me, it's a revival of a recipe that is as old as the world, as far as I'm concerned. Something that was quite popular in my house. But the thing that really I wanted to do, the great exercise that I wanted to put into place is to show you what easy is to make. Some wonderful, simple dishes with common ingredients that you find at the supermarket. When it comes to cooking, the most important thing is not how expensive the ingredients are. The most beautiful thing when you cook is the passion that you have. Dear friends, and this is how you make scallopini with a mushroom and marsala sauce. I remember this adventure that I had with this one chicken that I wanted to hug. I don't know what got into my head, but I needed to hug this chicken. Don't know why. Somehow I felt that I needed to hug him. And this chicken knew that I always wanted to hug him, even when my grandma was coming for feeding. So in spite of the fact that my grandma was putting the food out and all the chickens would come in, this one was always on the edge looking at me, not so sure that he wanted to come in. This one time I decided to make my attack. I said, you know what? I've been hanging around here for months now. I want to hug you. I never get to hold you. And I went straight for the chicken. Chicken scallopini with a mortadella cream sauce. A unique recipe as you've never seen before. Let me show you how to make it. There's a little bit of trick I showed you before. Why is it so important for us to have the oil so hot? I told you before, I would like to repeat it again. It's important that in the first injection of the scallopini into the oil, sear the outside of it. By searing the outside, we can ensure that all the juices will stay on the inside. I think this sucker is pretty much ready to go, so here we go. Now watch the technique again, because this is extremely important. We're shaking off the extra flour, and we basically putting down the scallopini so that as I let it go, the tip of them pushes away from me. Once they get into the pan, you want to let them go. There you are. You're getting some of the coloring that we want. Now, let it go for a few moments on the other side. Just to give you an idea so that you can frame yourself, I go by looking at the color of the scallopini. On the average, at this temperature, you need no more than 2.5 minutes per side for the scallopini to get their initial sear. And the initial sear is the best and most important part. At this point, always use a clean tray to put the scallopini back. You do not want to mix them with any of the juices from the chicken breast when they were raw that might have leaked behind. I find this to be extremely important. Now, there is too much oil for us to make the sauce. So one of the things that we need to do is to transfer this oil to a bowl. Now, we still need to put some of the oil back in the pan. Not all of it, just a little bit. So here we go with about a tablespoon and a half. The oil itself is full of flavor. Start the heat again. Only this time we put it about medium. And now we start to add the ingredients. So the first things that I want to do is things that create the base for the sauce. So here we go with white onions, nicely chopped. A touch of red pepper, just because I'm Sicilian and I like spice. Garlic that I cut thickly. Why? I love the flavor. We're gonna let the sauce cook for a while, and this garlic will melt right into it. So when you bite into it, it will be as if you're biting into a cream of garlic, and it's a wonderful experience to have in your mouth. But I also like to have something sweet to go along with it. So here we are with a little bit of red pepper. You could do green pepper, you could do yellow pepper. It doesn't have to be red. Red happens to be my favorite color, so I put it in there. And now, the mortadella. We got to talk about this. What is mortadella? Mortadella is bologna. Hey, you think, you're making a sauce with bologna. Mortadella is, in Italian, mortaio della carne, which was the big piece of wood where this meat in the old days used to be chopped and beaten down and turned into mousse-like consistency that was then reinserted into what we refer as the insaccato. Whenever you put an outer skin so that the ground meat will season on the inside, like we do for salami, like we do for many other deli meats, the mortadella was the most popular. It comes from the town of Bologna. So what I have done, and for those of you that have access to either an Italian deli or any deli in any supermarket, when you buy it, do ask him to give it to you the thickness of your finger. So it's about a half an inch, 3/4 of an inch. It's a single slice, and then you take the single slice and you cut them in dice like this. Why is this important? I love the dicing that the mortadella has when this takes place, but also in the cooking process, it adds an enormous amount of flavor. But right now, the flavor is in the surface. The flavor is in the onion. The flavor is in the red peppers. How do we bring the flavor back into the sauce? And what I'm about to do next is one of the most important things. White wine, Sauvignon Blanc, I will propose. Now, watch the color of the wine. Look and take a look at what's happening right now. And you see the coloring of the wine changing. It goes to a deep, wonderful sauce-like brownish finish. These are the brown bits that were stuck at the bottom of the pan, which have been rehabilitated and inserted. Now, the wine is almost reaching the glaze-like texture that we like. And it's at this point that the next addition is extremely important. And here we go. Chicken stock. And together with the chicken stock, a little bit of whipping cream. It is at this point that we want to reinsert the scallopini in the pan, and that's how we do it. We want to finish the cooking of the scallopini in the pan. People say, Nick, now we have the scallopini. I would say at this point, no more than 3 minutes. We already cook them 2 to 3 minutes per side before. And this is the last final. You don't want to boil it. You want to have it on medium heat. And this is exactly what we're looking for. The scallopini have cooked for the right time. Let's take them out right now. Put them back in the tray. And we're going to finish the sauce, and it will not take that long. First thing is to add some softened butter to thicken the sauce. And I also like to lower the heat now to medium-low. Notice how the cream has already reduced almost to the consistency that we want, and I love it. And at this point, there is another addition that I like to make into the sauce, and that is parsley. We are done. The sauce is ready. The scallopini are ready. Now, let me show you how to plate them. All right, here we are for our presentation. We layer them one on top of each other. Once my wife asked me, say, Nick, how'd you come up with this idea? And I said to my wife, honey, I did it because I don't want to do always the same thing. And this was something where I was trying to bring some of the flavors that I love, mortadella being one of my favorite lunch meats, into the making of scallopini and still do it elegantly, do it in a way in which it would mean something, which it would give a personality. And there it is, there you are. And this is how you make chicken scallopini with a creamy mortadella sauce. I mean, I'm telling you, you think chickens don't move. Let me tell you, they run, they fly. It took me forever. I remember running, I was barefooted into the fields after the chicken. And it just rained a few days before, and I did not see it. And as I was chasing after the chicken, pop, boom, splash, pop, in my face. I remember getting up, wiping the mud on my face and looking at the chicken. It was looking at me. And in perfect Venetian dialect was saying to me, "Ma tu sei proprio un cretino, eh?" Which means, you're a real dummy. Chicken scallopini with radicchio and gorgonzola. Why? I love gorgonzola. Let me show you how to make it. Now, we have the chicken scallopini, pieces that I would like to go ahead and cook. So here we go. Now, let me teach you the making of the sauce. Now, we're gonna start with a medium heat. It's very important that you don't go with high blasting heat because you're gonna burn the ingredients. So, the first thing that we're gonna do is adding our favorite, which is the garlic. This will keep the vampires away. The next thing that I like to do, onion. The garlic and onion combo is gonna really give a base to what we have. Keep in mind that the brown bits at the bottom is what we're trying to capture here. The next addition, I mean, it's not typical, but if you're Sicilian like me, life does not make any sense without red pepper flakes. Now, what I'm doing with the spoon, I'm helping as much as possible for the onion to pick up the brown bits. And you can see the change of color that the onions have at this point. Next thing, I have some brown pancetta. We're gonna add the brown pancetta. And together with the pancetta, I like to add some green peas. They can be fresh, they can be frozen, they both work very, very well. Now, it's an expansion of flavors that we want to have. So we go with some parsley and thyme. Thyme to me is essential in the sauce because it really opens it up. It's at this point that we add a secret weapon, brandy. How come brandy? And why not wine? Well, I use wine for everything. Brandy has the pretentiousness almost of a continental sauce, something that you would see in a fancy kitchen. But still, it's a sauce, a pan sauce. We're making for chicken. It's very simple. And one of the things that you need to embrace is that life is full of opportunities when most people always go for the most expensive things, the most complicated things, and the beauty truly is not in the most expense or the most of complication. Is in being able to find within the context of simplicity, beauty, art, flavor, and joy. And this to me is a sauce that is resplendent in that particular undertaking. Now, it's the other ingredients, chicken stock. And together with the chicken stock, a little bit of whipping cream. Now, it is at this point that I want to bring this to a vivacious simmer, I would like to say. We got the gentle, vivacious roll that I was looking for, and now we add our chicken scallopini, and we want for them to finish cooking in the sauce. Fantastic. The scallopini are ready. And now take the scallopini and I'll let them rest in their own tray. The next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna finish the sauce. The sauce requires two additions. Here is the radicchio, fresh radicchio, which I just chopped up. I like to almost cube it, but it doesn't make a big difference because it will let itself go into the sauce and it will soften up. And then there is the addition of the gorgonzola. Now at this point, arm yourself with patience. Do not be in a rush. Why is the radicchio so incredibly important? And why is the gorgonzola so important? And why is it that we add it at this point? There are two schools of thoughts. One is that you add the radicchio at the beginning and you flash it up a little bit on high heat. You give it a little bit of browning on the outside, trying to bring out the flavor. But what I like about the radicchio is the taste that it has. Amarostico. Amarostico means a little bit on the tart side. I like to keep it unchecked. And I like to add it at the end so it still maintains its presence. My mom said that to me once, you finally made me scallopini that come with their own salad in the sauce. And I thought it was very funny. And in a certain way it is. You've also noticed right now that all the pieces of gorgonzola have completely melted into the sauce. And we're pretty much ready to go where we want to go. One last addition. And this is something that I carry with me from making sauces for so many years. A little bit of butter. And we're gonna let this melt into the sauce. The sauce is now finished cooking. It's ready, scallopini are ready. I'm ready to go and plate it. Just because I love this cheese, I'm gonna add some more. And now the last thing that I want to do is turn off the heat. Stir it until the cheese completely melts into the sauce. And then the last thing that I wanna do is, perfect. The sauce is ready, scallopini is ready. We're ready to plate. This is a particularly dear recipe to me because it was one of those times when my mom and dad thought that I really had it going on. I did not start life professionally speaking as a chef, and this was one of those dishes that I wanted to impress my parents with. And I think the thing that impressed my mom is my ability to develop a sauce that would have a series of elements to it, but also a flavor that would be unique. And that's a point of pride for all of us Stellino. I remember my mom, every time she would serve something, to make a big deal with the sauce. I guess I'm carrying the same tradition. Well, I mean, every once in a while we get to see our dreams realized, and this I guess is exactly what I always wanted. And this is how you make scallopini di pollo with brandied radicchio and gorgonzola sauce. To this very day, Every time I think of a chicken, I can see the face of the chicken looking at me, totally covered with mud, getting up, and as I look up at all these chickens now looking at me, making fun of me. But the thing I like the most is I still like running through the fields, feeling free, going after something. So the way I interpret the story is that maybe this chicken was just trying to teach me how beautiful it is in life to just go for it. Whatever it is that you had in mind, whatever your dreams are, why should it happen to somebody else? Why can't it happen to you? So, maybe the chicken was trying to teach me something. I could have done without the mud bath, though. Yeah, I could have done without that.
Yes,
I'll sell it to you.
A way to transform chicken into a delectable...
I'll sell it to you guys. I'm gonna take a new thing. I saw a show on Fox. I'm gonna do it for you. You ready?
Yeah. Everybody quiet. Action, Nick.
Chicken breast, stuffed with something. Eat it. Shut up. Don't change the channel.
I'd rather we get out of that. That's for sure.